everybody. I'm here to talk about flathub.org, the website. So, thank you. So who am I? Why am I talking to you about this? Wait. How is it not? I'm Kolja. I've been working on FlatHub for the past 2 years, I think. In general, I'm father of a 9-year-old right now. I do some music stuff and I'm a developer by trade and also in my free time for some reason. I'm part of the XBMC Cody team since 2015 or 2016, something like that. Have been pretty active there and start. It's been lesser in the last few years, but I've changed my focus a lot. So in between, I wrote a language server in a functional language, spent a little bit of time learning there, and now moved on to do the FlatHub website because I wanted to get involved in Linux in some way. So the team right now is basically me. Bart does a lot of things in the background and with server admin and stuff, but when it comes to actually working on the web pages, it's mostly me, which I would be happy to change, but we'll see about that. So I'll give you a brief primer. Probably most of the people here are familiar with flathub.org, the website as it is right now. We have a landing page where you can see our top apps, basically go through it, see what's new, what's popular, what's trending, see our categories, and dig into the apps, basically. Every app has its own little page where you can see what it does and the metadata in a nicely laid out way, if you ask me. It also works fine on mobile, but we'll talk about that later a little bit. We also do like installation instructions for distributions which are not shipping Flatpak by default, or well, FlatHub by default, so that people can be helped with installing those, and we're also doing some tricks to make those available to search engines. So why do I think that FlatHub is important, especially when it comes to the website? I want to talk about 4 things. The first one would be the onboarding experience, which we kind of saw right there already a little bit. I want to talk about discoverability. I want to talk about convenience. And the third one is about generating news. So when it comes to onboarding, we have a lot to do on distributions where Flatpak or FlatHub is not installed by default, and we ideally want to take the hand of each user and allow them to do it easily and in a comprehensible way. So we're trying to help people install it easily. It's installed for many distros, to be honest. Most distros are shipping it, but there are some distros that are not as nice, in my opinion. Some need instructions, like I already showed. And yeah, we are hoping to improve that even further in the future. So here's an example I kind of already showed of the setup, in this case for Ubuntu. But right now it's only in English, which is something we want to change in the future, hopefully. Yeah. So documentation in general is also really important for onboarding. So right now we have Flatpak docs and we have FlatHub docs, which kind of go hand in hand. So we're a pretty strong team there, and the forum also plays a role here because the forum or the yeah, the forum on FlatHub is searchable and gets indexed by Google also and can answer your questions basically that way or another. And we're actively working on improving the documentation since we've moved to the new documentation system, which is done in Docusaurus. I pushed for that a year or two ago maybe at this point, because before this, the documentation itself was only in a wiki on GitHub and only a few people could edit it, and now we have the possibility to actually work on it with more people and accept pull requests easily. Another neat thing that I think is we started to categorize stuff by user roles or personas, like for users, every documentation for user, for app authors, and there's also for team members basically. And I started seeing this copied in some other documentations already, so that's really nice, and I think that's a good thing. When it comes to discoverability, I want to talk about SEO optimization a little bit, which is kind of a boring topic, which is kind of why I want to talk about it, because most app developers are probably not really interested in doing SEO optimization for their apps. They mostly have all their hands full already with just handling their app, handling the branding even if they have it, and handling their app on its own. So they don't have the time or capacity to spend on this basically. So it's kind of important to help them. Also some apps, the smaller ones especially, don't have their own websites in most cases, so they don't have another place where they would be able to be found. So that's also why we hope to fill that gap for the small apps at least. This gets us mindshare as FlatHub or Flatpak in general. So this is a very good thing in my opinion. And we already have quite a good standing with Google or with search engines right now. So to give you a rough estimate, right now we're getting, from Google alone, we're getting 7,000 to 8,000 clicks a day basically. So people that are actually coming from Google, and like 420,000 impressions per day. And that's just Google alone, not people that are going directly to our site, not people from DuckDuckGo, not people from Bing. So the real number is probably way higher. So this is important and dear to my heart basically. So to optimize for this, there is something called schema.org, which I run a test on here where you can see some of the data we are like exposing. So in this case you have Tangram, and we're exposing the file size and the software version, for example. And if you go to Bing, this is one of the examples I could find, you can see that they are actually reading the software version and showing it to their users so that they can see on a glance on which version is the installed one. And you also see the update, last updated date basically, which is also read from here, date published. And that are just some examples that I could find. There are obviously more. And every search engine is different when it comes to that. So take your time, search through some search engines. Send me some examples if you want. I would be really glad about that. So another thing that we're doing right now are social images. We're generating images from scratch basically. We're taking the icons that you upload to your app, and the first screenshot, we put it on a canvas, color the background in your preferred branding color, put some nice logos on it, your summary and your name tag, and that's used for social embeddings then. So you can post this on Mastodon or on wherever element matrix, and it shows up nicely. And it's also translatable, so if you have translations for your app, it will also be in that language. Here's an example of me posting on Mastodon and one in Signal, I think. So it shows up nicely, it gets across what you're sending, so it's kind of nice. But to make all this work, good quality data is really, really important, because without good quality data, we can not do as much good for you as we want to, basically. So in order to improve upon this, we have started doing some data quality work, basically. So we are trying to give you some help and a little feedback loop to help you improve your app. So we show on your app page a rating which is done by team members, basically, and in this case everything is good, everything is blue. We look at each of those individually and say it fails this check, it doesn't fail the check. If you go to the linked icon, you can see a little bit of written documentation where you can figure out what we're talking about, what we're expecting from you, and that way we can not only show your app nice on our website, but also push it to the outside world in a nice way and onboard more users that way, and also make our users right now, which are already there, happy. So let's talk about convenience then. As I spoke about earlier, you can browse it on mobile fine. It looks something like this. It's optimized for that. And you can discover an app while on the go, and I end up sending apps to my other devices via Firefox in these cases. So we hope to maybe improve that at some point, but right now I'm really happy with that, especially if somebody sends you something in a chat or something, and you can just check it out while on the go with the family on the beach or at your vacation place, and still be in the loop if you want to be. We also have a search, which was not that hard to do, but it's really a nice thing because you can really fast find stuff now. Other people also say that, but I always end up using the search on FlatHub because it's kind of fast. You go to the website, you hit a key, you can start typing, and you basically have your result. And that's really nice. We also have facets and filters where you can filter down for arches or for licenses or categories, which is pretty nice. And let's talk about generating news. And you might think, what are you talking about? We don't want to generate news. This is a little bit weird. What I'm talking about is helping people discover apps and outlets. There are some places that are looking at new apps and featuring them in places. So I brought you one example, which is from Gaming on Linux here. So they found a new app on FlatHub and talked about it in a post, and that also increases our reach basically, and we're really happy about that. So categories go a long way, and social media posts are also happening. I'm regularly seeing stuff on Mastodon where people are featuring apps in some capacity and linking to FlatHub, which they found on the new tab. And there's also success stories like this one. FlatHub continues growing with over 2 billion downloads recorded, and there's more stories about it and more stories about it. And the crazy thing about this is we have not published anything about this. Basically, we have a statistic page, and one of those sites presumably picked it up, that we're over 2 billion, and they just ran with it. And that's really great for us in a way. But we can also do announcements now and do this kind of stuff on our own, because we have a little blog on the documentation now where we're pushing for stuff that we want media to pick up, basically. So that's also SEO optimized. This ends up on all the search engines, gets indexed nicely, and shows up as articles over there. And also shows up in the backend for developers on FlatHub itself, so that they don't miss stuff we announce here. So you might ask yourself, how did you do this? How did you create this website? So the stack right now is Fastly, because they're sponsoring us, as far as I know, which is caching everything in the front. Followed by Nginx is a web server, so it just basically handles HTTP stuff. Our front end is right now written in Next.js or React, and that then asks our back end, which has a REST API, which is written in Python to my bane, and that then interacts with the backend service or a worker service, which can do long-running tasks, but usually it's like these tasks are usually emails right now, which is another service in Node, and the Python backend ends up speaking with Postgres, where we store our data that's not regeneratable, so user data mostly. If we have user data, we have user logins. So that's where user logins live, but we also have some small parts of app data in there already. But usually app data is stored in Redis. We're also using Redis to cache stuff some more, so everything is heavily cached, which is kind of important because it's not a small website anymore. And we're using Mighty Search, which is a Rust project, which is basically also a database, but for search engines. So if you're using the search on FlatHub, you're using Mighty Search, and that's basically the magic that provides us those facets, filters, and the search functionality, and it's also doing stemming and different language support for search, so that like small words are not factored into your search, or if you have a typo, it will also try to still show you something helpful, basically. So when an app is uploaded or changed, right now it basically goes like this. We're getting a download from FlatHub itself. So basically what your desktop app is doing on Discover or GNOME software, it's downloading a zipped file with catalog data. Catalog data looks a little bit like this. So you have an XML, which is very long by now, because we have quite some apps. And it has all the data that we're trying to show you on the website. We parse that, we accumulate it, we feed it into Redis and into Mighty Search to make it searchable. And then we regenerate the front end from the back end, basically asking for changes, basically. So that way you end up with your app refreshed or with a new app showing up at all. The other thing that's happening on a regular basis, so the other one is happening after each upload basically, or after each change. This one is statistics updates. Those only happen once a day basically, because we only get statistics once a day, or well, it doesn't make sense for the current day, but the last day, and we don't want to import all the time. We can basically consume the server logs, so when you download a Flatpak, it's using curl on the inside basically, and it sends which Flatpak version you're using and what you're downloading basically. But that's pretty much it. We have all those logs, we aggregate those, and we store it into the storage, and it looks a little bit like this. And that's a file which starts to exist for each day, and we go through it and just basically throw it into our database after doing some aggregation, and then we have new graphs on our website, and you can see the downloads in an updated form. So to give you a little glimpse of Miley search, this is a search I did on the front end it brings with it. So you can see that we have multiple data points in there which are searchable, and we're weighting those by a factor. So some stuff is more important than other stuff. It's also kind of important to have words early on. So words early in your description also increase rating when they're searched for. We have the mail service, like I alluded to, where we are queuing mails, and those mails then get processed by a worker. And we now also have a nice tool to preview mails and test them, which looks something like this. This is a login mail which you get when you log into our page. So we can test it, see how it's supposed to look, because mail clients are notoriously different. Especially Outlook is kind of interesting. But now we do have a way to make really nice emails and make them good to pass and easy to read, and also test them for mobile formats and stuff like that. The next thing we're doing is translations. Right now we're at about 55 languages, which is quite a lot. Some of those are also quite esoteric, but that's also fun. Some of those are empty, like you can see with Burmese here. So if you're speaking Burmese, get into it. Somebody created that translations and never followed up, so that would be nice. But it's quite a lot. Right now, it might already have changed because I've worked already on it again, but it's been 591 strings right now, so it's not that bad to translate. Could be worse, certainly. And we're using Weblate right now, so you can basically do all the translations online if you want to. The interface is kind of nice, I really like it, and it's really easy to contribute that way. So we have many more projects. We moved everything to the FlatHub infrastructure repo on GitHub right now, and you can get a nice overview if you go there. We have this project, which is the website. There's also the documentation on there. There's the parser for the curl logs on there and other stuff. So have a look, help out if you have some time. And so let's talk about what's next. Everything, which might be a little bit dark. I'm just kidding. Here are some ideas for what the future holds for us. As I said earlier, I really want to translate the setup instructions, because those are those might actually be the only part right now that's English only, and that's really a shame. There are some hoops we need to jump through to figure this out, because right now the Flatpak documentation is the source of truth for those instructions. And yeah, so this will be something we're going to work on, especially because we want to be able to reach users which don't speak English. And that's pretty high on my priority list right now. Then we are already collecting country statistics per app, so each time you download something, we can roughly figure out the country you're in via the IP address, basically. And we have started to collect that at some point, so I'm going to add that to the app page in the future. I also really want to look at XDG categories back, because the categories are really, really old, and some are in a dire need of an update, in my opinion, but it's been really hard to get some people to look at it and people to be excited about that, basically. But I think it says a lot that our categories right now are very lopsided. So if you look at the category distribution of FlatHub right now, you have a lot of utilities, which is some kind of placeholder, in my opinion, because it should be a little bit more specific. And it could be so much nicer, basically. But this is something that we need to do with the XDG people and upstream free desktop. So it might take a time. Right, we're also always talking about review handling and how to do it, which is quite a complicated topic, and you could even consider to just not do it, I guess, but it would go a long way for our SEO story, basically. But it's also, it's kind of hard because you don't want to put stress on developers, but users are also kind of expecting reviews in some way, and other platforms do this, and we want to have a look at it at some point, basically. We're also talking about seasonal lists and app campaigns, like you've seen with the start page and the banners right now, to have something like getting back to school or apps for your Christmas break and stuff like that, which Tobias has some ideas about. So we might start looking at that in the future too, and have some stuff more targeted at certain people and try to improve our targeting there, basically. Age ratings are a thing I want to have on the detail page. So if anybody understands Python and GObject, please help. Because I already looked at it and I just don't understand how this is supposed to work in a nice way. And it would be really great to have age ratings. We can also offer those to search engines again, and that will also improve our data quality overall. And as I said, I'm a father, I have a daughter which is 9, and age ratings are certainly something that I'm interested in for her. And the last one would be payments, which has been pretty much done as far as I know. It probably needs some touch-ups here and there. It's been mostly an organizational problem right now, as far as I know, but I might not be in the loop. And that's about it. So we're at the questions part if you have some.
can you say something about how many people are searching for specific apps and how many people are like browsing and discovering new apps?
For specific apps via our own search is what you're asking. I can't really tell you that from memory right now. We can look at the stats later if you want to, but I've never analyzed it that way.
More questions? Emmanuel, no, raising hand? No.
Going once.
I will have a question. So I recently made, I have an app on FlatHub, and I think you reviewed it. Thank you.
I'm not part of the reviewing team. So
okay, so someone else.
I'm doing the quality reviews, but the reviews for FlatHub itself are done by other people.
Okay, but
which are also doing a great job.
So thank you, people. So this is maybe Flatpak general, or like it's Flatpak FlatHub question. We have a Flatpak manifest in GNOME Builder, which are prepared for different kind of programming languages, and different programming languages have their different package managers, which are online. You look up packages online, and my question is: the FlatHub runner is offline only?
Yes.
So is there a like, are we trying to close this gap between GNOME Builder creating manifests which are online first, online only, and FlatHub only? That would be, I mean, this is maybe GNOME Builder question.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, but yeah, so.
No promises there. We really want to switch away from Buildbot as far as I know, so, but somebody needs to do that replacement, and as far as I know, nobody has started on that, and it will take some time, and it will take some time to get good. And in that case, it might be possible to do online builds, as far as I understood. So that might be a way out, but I would ask Bart about it if you really care.
Is it even a good idea to do online builds?
The question is not, are we doing online builds? Sorry. The question is not, are we doing online builds? But right now, the situation is you need someone who wants to publish. Like, if there is a beginner developer like me, you need to have some expertise in CI/CD to be able to change the Mason build in a way that it downloads the resources for offline use in Cargo, for instance. And that's not easy. That's a huge gap, and we don't have it bridged in the Linux ecosystem. You need to use C to not have the issue.
I don't know about that. I know that there are tools to do that for you, basically, but you're probably also using those.
But you need to figure that out.
I haven't run into that personally, so.
Does anyone else have a question? I still have a question. It's slightly related to your talk, but so often I try to click on the name of a publisher to see what else they published, and it's not possible, but I've seen that you have that in your data available, right? So theoretically, you could do a page with
those
that?
pages also exist, they are just not linked.
Ah, okay, good to know.
So talk to some designers about that, and we can come up with something to find where to link it to them in a nice way. So there have been issues about that, but I'm not convinced that linking the name at the top is the right approach, but I might be wrong.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess that's it.